Raise your right hand, please, sir.
You solemnly swear and affirm that the testimony that you will give will be the truth and the whole truth, so help you God.
Okay, sir, if you'll come up and have a seat, adjust the microphone so that you can speak into it, so that we can all hear you. And then I will ask you first to state your name and then spell your name for the court report.
Yes, sir. My name is Brad Dougherty. First name is B-R-A-D. Last name spelled D-O-U-G-H-E-R-T-Y.
Thank you, sir. You may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. Morning.
Good morning.
Will you please introduce yourself to the jury?
As you heard, my name is Brad Dougherty. I'm captain with the Baker County Sheriff's Office.
How long have you been with the Baker County Sheriff's Office?
Well, I've worked there off and on twice, but totally probably about 17 years.
Will you tell the jury your total background in law enforcement?
I have approximately 23, 24 years in law enforcement. I've held several different positions, from supervisor on patrol to lieutenant over investigations. The major part of my career has been as a detective, major crimes, working homicides here as well as Clay County.
I want to take you back to July of 2023. What was your position at that time?
I was a detective at the time.
And were you supervising? Were you supervising other detectives, or what was your position there?
No, I was just a detective working mostly major crimes.
On July 19th of 2023, were you called out to a house here in McClenny regarding the death of a child?
We were called, not specifically to the house, but we were contacted by the on-duty patrol lieutenant that advised us of the situation, that the infant child was being transported to the hospital, and that there was still a scene on a state street.
Where did you go?
So there were 4 of us in investigations that day. We divided the team up. Had Detective Cohn and Detective Curry went to a state street. Myself and Detective Griffin went to Ed Frazier Hospital.
When you got to Ed Frazier's hospital, what did you do first?
So by the time I got to the hospital, they'd already pronounced Araya deceased. So at that point, I went in the room and began conducting a body exam.
What is a body exam?
Body exam for a detective, a body exam is when we respond to a death. We're looking at the body externally for any visible signs of trauma, like stab wounds, bullet holes, signs of strangulation, or it could be from accidental from a fall, broken bones, things of that nature.
And when you performed the body exam in this case, what were your findings?
I didn't find any signs of trauma to the child, but I did note that the child has her skin was very hot to the touch, and this was approximately 30 minutes after she had been in the hospital, which is climate controlled.
Did you find that to be abnormal?
I did. I mean, it was abnormal. The skin was very hot, and normally after a person passes away, the body temperature will begin to fall, or it will go to the temperature of whatever environment the body is in. So, being in this case that the child's skin was very hot, I knew that the child had been in a hot place.
What did you do with that information?
Once I discovered that, I came out to the medical staff and requested that they provide me with a temperature, internal and external temperature of the child.
And what were those temperatures?
The external temperature was 102 degrees. The internal temperature was at least 110. And I say at least because the thermometer wouldn't read past 110.
And was the medical examiner's office called?
I did call them, yes.
And did you meet with the medical examiner's office or their agents at the hospital?
I met with their investigator. I waited at the hospital for the investigator to arrive so that I can relay my findings to the investigator, as well as basically turn the body over to her.
And at that point in your investigation, after concluding that conversation with the medical examiners, where did you go next?
I went to the sheriff's office.
And why did you do that?
I knew that the defendant had already been transported to the sheriff's office, so I went up there to conduct an interview with her.
And do you recognize the defendant here in the courtroom today?
I do.
Can you please identify her by an article of clothing?
She's wearing a tan-colored jacket, sitting between her attorneys.
And did you ask her to do an interview with you?
I did.
Did she agree to that?
She did.
Did she tell you what happened on July 19th of 2023?
She did. She gave me the story of what took place that morning or that day.
So let's start with why the defendant was where she was. Did she tell you why she was at that house on Estate Street?
Yes, in the interview, it came out that she had been babysitting for the Pages twice a week, I believe it was. So she was there to pick up Araya on that morning to babysit Araya. She was going to take Araya to the Pascal residence on Estate Street and babysit Araya there with the Pascal's 3 children.
So she acknowledged to you that she was caring for the child.
Yes.
So starting with how the defendant got to that location, how the day started for the defendant on July 19th, did she tell you what she did, the steps she took to get to that street?
To get to
Estate Street. Where did the
Oh,
defendant
yes.
stay?
So she told me once she got to the Pages residence, which is on Shuey Avenue, that she then was driving to State Street. But she told me the path that she took was US 90 to 121 south, and on the way to Estate Street, which is just south of the interstate, she went to Burger King. And while at Burger King, she noticed that the line was too long, so she just made a loop around the parking lot and went on to the Pascal residence.
And were you able to discover what type of vehicle she was driving?
Yes, I believe it was 2013 Chevrolet Tahoe.
May I approach, Your Honor?
You may.
Detective, I'm handing you what's been previously marked as State's Composite Exhibit L1 and 2. Do you recognize those?
Yes, I recognize where they're at, yes.
And what are they?
It is a overview map of McClenny showing Shuey Avenue, where the Pages live, and showing the location of the Burger King.
Those fairly and accurately describe the locations that the defendant discussed as far as her route on July 19th.
That's correct. And then the other photograph would be from Burger King to her final destination of Estate Street, where she was going to babysit.
Your Honor, the State would tender State's Exhibit L1 and 2, as I believe State's 12A and B.
Can you,
No objection, Your Honor.
very well, then they will be received as State's Exhibits 12A and B.
Permission to publish, Your Honor?
Granted.
Detective, if you could turn around for us here. This would be State's 12A. And can you please describe what is pictured on this map?
At the very top where it says 239 Shuey Avenue, this is going to be the location where the defendant picked up Araya, and Burger King at the bottom where she first went to try to go to Burger King. When I stated that, she said the line was too long.
And on the top right, it shows a distance of 1.93 miles. That would be as a crow flies, so to speak. Is that fair?
That's correct.
So it would be farther than that via vehicle on the road?
Yes, probably approximately 2 miles, maybe just a little over 2 miles, not very much.
And this would be State's 12B. Again, if you could please describe for the jury what we're seeing in this one.
On the far left is the Burger King that she went to, just off 121. On the right is Estate Street, which is the Pascal residence where she went to babysit all the children.
And it appears the distance on this map is roughly what?
Less than a half a mile.
And Detective, were there any steps you took to confirm this was her route?
Yes, we have LPRs in this county, which is license plate readers, and I was able to run her license plate in the license plate reader database, which showed her vehicle passing through the intersection of 121 and 90, heading south on 121 at 7:59 a.m.
What is a license plate reader?
It's basically a camera that's set up that captures the vehicle and the license plate of every vehicle that crosses the path of the camera.
And do you have access to a database to pull up these?
I do. Most law enforcement does. It's something that's used to help with crime throughout the entire country.
And as part of your investigation in this case, you searched the license plate reading database?
Yes,
And that's when you found this hit you just described for us?
that's correct.
May I approach, Your Honor?
You may.
Detective, I'm handing you what's been previously marked as State's Exhibit M. Do you recognize that?
I do.
And what is it?
It is a captured photo of the vehicle passing through the LPR, the license plate reader, and it shows the map and location of where that camera is.
And this is the result you obtained in this investigation that when you were confirming the defendant's route?
Yes.
Your Honor, the state would request to enter State's Exhibit M as State's 13.
Any objection?
No objection.
They will be received as 13. State's Exhibit 13.
Permission to publish?
Granted.
And Detective, if you could briefly describe for the jury what information you're able to ascertain from State's 13.
Yes, when we run a vehicle through the LPR, this is the screen that pops up. It shows a picture of the vehicle as well as the license plate. In this case, it is the license plate and vehicle registered to the defendant. And in the bottom left, it is a map of where that camera is located within the county.
Now, when you were doing your interview with the defendant in this case, did she tell you there were any delays or any traffic jams or anything on her route July 19th of 2023?
No, she did not.
You're familiar with the streets of Baker County, I would assume, given your role.
I am, yes.
Given your knowledge of Baker County, is it fair to say you're familiar with the traffic around and how long it takes to get from place to place?
Fairly well, yes.
On an average day, given the route the defendant took, roughly how long would that drive take?
Probably with that time of the morning, maybe 15 to 20 minutes.
So when the defendant got to the house on Estate Street, what did she say happened?
She said that when she got there, that Araya was sleeping because she wasn't making any noises, or she assumed she was sleeping because she wasn't making any noises. So she went on into the house, met with Stacy Pascal, spoke with her briefly, and then sat down on the couch and started her day with the other 3 children.
Did she indicate to you that she had forgotten the child?
She did.
Did you ask the defendant if she was distracted that day or if there was anything going on that was...
I did. In my interview, I asked her if there would be anything that was going on in her life that could have caused the distraction that would have basically caused her to forget the child in the car. And she told me that her family was planning a overseas trip, and that I believe they were set to leave fairly soon after that day.
Can you please describe for the jury the demeanor of the defendant during your interview with her?
She was very upset. She was upset. She was crying.
Was she able to communicate with you
She
effectively?
was.
And now, this interview with the defendant, was it recorded?
Yes.
May I approach, Your Honor? Detective, I'm handing you what's been marked as State's Exhibit 10 for identification. You recognize what this is?
I do.
What is it?
It is a video or a copy of the interview that I conducted with the defendant. I have viewed it and have signed it as such.
Has it been altered or tampered in any way?
No.
Your Honor, the State would seek to introduce State's N, as I believe it would be State's 13, correct?
Any objection?
No objection, sir.
Will be received then as State's Exhibit 14.
Permission to publish?
It's granted.
I'm secondary just to take the code. I know this is very difficult, okay? We just gotta get through it and get a statement from you. But because you are here at the sheriff's office, and we're here talking to you in here, I gotta still let you know what your rights are, okay? Doesn't mean that you're arrested, just means you gotta know what your rights are because we're talking to you in a place you may not feel free to leave, okay? So Detective Clutch, I'll read those to you.
All right, Mr. Rhonda, you have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in the court of law. You have the right to talk to a lawyer and have him or her present with you while you're being questioned. If you cannot afford to hire a lawyer, one will be appointed to represent you before any questioning, if you wish. You can decide at any time to exercise these rights and not answer any questions or make any statements. Do you understand these rights as I have explained them to you? Okay, with these rights in mind, are you willing to answer some questions for us?
I know this is tough. I know it's very tough. Just kind of walk me through the day and what happened.
I picked her up about 8 o'clock. I usually keep her.
Your Honor, may we approach briefly?
You may. We're going to take just a few minute break. We'll stay right in place, stand up, stretch, whatever you need to do. It should only take a few minutes to get the problem resolved, and we'll try again. So we are in informal recess at this point. Please.
All right.
Yes, sir. Be seated, please. Thank you. State?
Thank you, Your Honor. So, Detective, this was the recorded interview of the defendant?
Yes, this is the defendant and myself and Detective Curry are in the room.
I'll come in and talk to you, okay? Sir, I'll have you wait out in the hall. Yes, sir. No problem, sir. You can have a seat out here in the hall next time. No. The chair falls all over. I'll find it. I'm expecting to always take the curve. I know this is very difficult, okay? You just gotta get through it, get a statement from me. But because you are here at the sheriff's office, and we're here talking to you in here, I gotta still let you know what your rights are, okay? Doesn't mean that you're arrested, just means you gotta know what your rights are because we're talking to you in a place you may not feel free to leave, okay? So Detective Curry, I'll read those to you.
You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in the court of law. You have the right to talk to a lawyer and have him or her present while you're being questioned. If you cannot afford to hire a lawyer, one will be appointed to represent you before any questioning, if you wish. You can decide at any time to exercise these rights and not answer any questions or make any statements. Do you understand these rights as I have explained them to you?
Sure.
Okay, with these rights in mind, are you willing to answer some questions for us?
I know this is tough. I know it's very tough. Just kind of walk me through the day of what happened.
I picked her up about 8 o'clock. I usually keep her 2 days a week. So I work Monday at my other job, but some things have fell through. Her husband only won't work night shift, so I went just Wednesday and Thursday at this place where I was at today.
The house where you was at today?
Mm-hmm. They have twins and a girl that I keep. Anyway, so on the same days, I pick up Araya from her house. But today was an earlier day because the other lady needed me at 8:15, so I picked her up at 8 o'clock, which is usually 8:30. Anyway, so I picked her up, and I pulled through Burger King to get something to eat, but the line was too long, so I left and went to the job I was at.
On the State Street, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So I got there at 8:15, and the baby was like, because she was asleep, she was quiet. And because I don't keep her every day, I forgot she was there. So I went inside, got busy with the other kids, and I even talked to the mom throughout the day, and it just didn't click
Right.
that the baby was up.
So that was at 8 o'clock. What time did you realize the baby was outside?
When it was, girl,
You know what time roughly that was?
one.
When 911 was called?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. How many kids were in the car when you got home with her, when you got to that house today? Just her?
Just her.
Just her?
Mm-hmm.
And the other kids were there, I'm assuming you babysit them for the family that lives at that house? Is that what they were there, already there? The homeowner that lives there, what's her name, do you know?
Stacy.
Stacy.
Mm-hmm.
Did Stacy know that you was bringing the other child?
No, because sometimes I have her and sometimes I don't.
Okay, so she had no idea. And where did you park at the driveway?
In the rocks.
In the rocks?
Pulled off into the rocks.
Okay. And the only reason I'm asking, I didn't know if maybe they would have seen anything when they left, when they left there. The stuff that's in the car, the baby stuff, is that for that child?
Yes, sir.
how long have you babysitted this child? How many?
Since probably, June.
Since June of this year?
Mm-hmm.
Does he do it every week or every day, or how does that work?
I was keeping her Mondays, with my other job, Monday, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. But she come to me a couple of weeks ago, about a month ago, and said, hey, my mother-in-law's going to keep her on Thursdays, so we'll just have her Mondays and Wednesdays.
Okay.
And so, because I didn't have this other job on Mondays because of their work schedule, I was off on, I kept her on Monday, so I went and got her on Monday, and I've done all my errands in McClenny, and
Sorry.
I keep her till 1, till her mom comes and gets her. So I done all my errands in McClenny, and her mom come and got her
Right.
at 1 o'clock. That was on Monday, and on Tuesdays I have off. And on Wednesday I went to my other job, and I usually take her with me, but that was on Wednesdays. On Thursdays I didn't have her anymore. On Thursdays her mother-in-law kept her.
So you said, just to go back and reiterate, you said when you got there to the house on the State Street that she was sound asleep. Was the plan to come out and get her a little bit, or?
No, I normally just get out and get her and take her inside.
But I'm saying, you said you noticed that she was asleep when you got there.
Well, I assumed she was asleep. She didn't want to make any noise.
Okay, she wasn't making any noise.
Yeah, I just picked her up, and her mom said that she would probably go to sleep. So I just assumed she had fell asleep, but she didn't make any noise.
Okay. And the questions that will come up is, is anything on your mind? Are you going through something personally that would cause you not to, think about it?
I mean, we have a kid moving to college, so we're doing that, and
Right.
we're going to London, and we're supposed to go on vacation tomorrow, and I mean, that's not an excuse to me.
I'm not asking you to make excuses. That's not what I mean. And I mean, the question is, it is possible to forget things, and even a child. And it's even more possible if you've got some type of stress in your life at the time that you're going through, that kind of thing, that would cause you to make that forgetfulness, So I didn't know if there was something like that going on in your life right now.
Just moving our kid to college, and this trip coming up in England, and we're supposed to leave it August the 2nd, and all of that, so, but.
Okay. No drugs or alcohol? Okay. All right, well, let your husband come back in here. We're currently talking to the sheriff in the state. We're going to figure out where we go from here, okay? So if you don't mind, just hang out in here for a little while I have your husband come back in here, okay?
So, Detective, during that interview, the defendant remembered picking up Araya that morning.
She did.
And did she remember driving to the house on Estate Street?
Yes.
Did she remember going to Burger King?
Yes.
Did she remember the fact that Araya was asleep?
She did.
Did she remember to get Araya out of the car?
She did not.
Now, in the investigation in this case, without telling me what anybody else said, did you speak to other witnesses?
I did.
About how many?
Probably maybe four other people.
I want to talk about the timeline. We've talked about it a little bit, but the things that happened on July 19th. What time did you understand Araya Page was picked up by the defendant?
My understanding was she arrived at the house at 7:50 a.m. and left at 7:55 a.m. She passed through the LPR at 7:59 And between 7:59 and 8:15 is when she went to Burger King and arrived at Estate Street.
So she was at the Estate Street roughly 8:15 a.m.
8:15, yes.
And during your interview, did you understand the defendant to say that she had communicated with the victim's mom?
She did when she first arrived there at Estate Street.
And when, based on your investigation, was Araya discovered in the vehicle?
Around 1:12 at p.m.
So 8:15 a.m. to roughly 1:12 p.m.
Yes.
And in your investigation, can you tell the jury what the temperature was that day?
It was projected to be 96 to 98 degrees. I know in my vehicle, it gives you a display. I don't know how accurate it is, but it was roughly 98 degrees is what the temperature was showing.
One moment, Your Honor. Thank you, Detective. Attend to the witness.
Cross-examination.
Good morning. It's Captain now, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Captain Doherty, you indicated that you've been in law enforcement for about 24 years, give or take.
23 to 24, correct?
Some here and some in Clay County.
Right.
You said during your direct examination that you sent Detective Curry to the Estate Street address, correct?
That is correct.
And you and Detective Griffin, I think you said, went to the hospital.
That is correct.
And in the interview, that is Detective Curry sitting there with you, correct?
Yes.
Okay. You indicated that when you went to the hospital, you were advised that Araya was deceased.
Yes.
Okay. So you went into the room where Araya was and you looked at her body for any signs of trauma, you said.
Yes.
And that would be things like bruising, redness, anything that would indicate any type of possible abuse of any kind, correct?
Right. That is correct.
You saw none of that.
I saw none of that.
And I'm assuming that you've had some training in identifying signs of trauma, correct?
I have, yes.
So you would have noticed that had there been one.
Yes.
State Attorney, let me back up a little bit. Prior to going into the room to speak with Rhonda Jewell on the interview, had you spoken to her at all?
I have not.
Okay. And the interview room that we see is inside the Baker County Sheriff's Office Detective Division, correct?
Yes, the detective division.
Okay. And you have several rooms like this where you interview individuals,
We have two. We have one in patrol and one in investigations.
and these are all equipped with a camera that we see, correct?
Yes.
And that's to record the interview
Correct.
so that someone later on can hear exactly what somebody said.
That is right.
Okay. So when you were asked questions earlier by Mr. King about what Ms. Jewell told you, okay, both before and after we watched the video today, you would agree with me that what she told you would be what this jury saw on that video, correct?
That is correct.
So if your recall of that during your testimony was different, you would rely upon that video, correct?
Correct.
Captain, Mr. King asked you, was Ms. Jewell upset? And you said that she was upset and crying, I think is how you described it, correct?
Yes.
Now, she had been at the sheriff's office for a little while at this point, correct?
Yes, I believe that interview was around, if I remember what the clock said, around 2:40. 911 was called at 1:12, so.
You know about what time she arrived at the jail? I mean, at the sheriff's office?
I don't. I was at the hospital when she arrived there.
But she had been there for a while.
Yes.
When you arrived, she had been talking to another employee of the sheriff's office, correct?
That is correct.
Would you agree with me that when you first saw her, she was more upset than she appeared on this video?
Yes, she was crying. She was very upset. Probably crying more than what she did in the interview.
You would agree with me that what we see, she's calmed down some at that point, correct?
Yes.
Detective Curry read Rhonda Jewell her rights, correct?
That's correct.
And what are anybody's rights when they're being questioned by sheriff's office?
What are the rights?
Yes, sir.
That they don't have to speak to us. They have a right to have an attorney present. If they wish to talk to us, they can stop talking to us at any time.
And Ms. Jewell waived all those rights, correct?
She did.
She voluntarily told you, or talked to you in this case.
Yes.
She could have easily said no.
Yes.
In the video, we see Mrs. Jewell sitting there with what appears to be a white shirt and some type of light blue shorts, maybe.
Yes.
Are you aware whether or not she had changed her shorts before you interviewed her?
I'm aware that she was wearing pants that I was told that she had urinated in, and she had to change.
Was she changed by this time, or do you recall?
I don't recall.
Just to verify that the license plate reader that we spoke about and we have a picture of,
Yes.
you said the time passing through the intersection was 7:59, according to the license plate reader?
I believe so, yes.
Any reason to doubt that's accurate?
I have no reason to doubt that.
I think Mr. King asked you a general question about how long it would take to drive from the Shuey Avenue home of Brooke and Justice Page to Stacy Pascal's home on Estate Street, correct?
Correct.
And you gave an estimate of that, right?
I did.
But that could vary, correct?
It could vary, yes.
Okay. You weren't aware of what the traffic conditions that particular day were?
I was not, however, I was at the sheriff's office. Had there been something major going on, I would have been aware of it.
But again, a slight traffic delay you wouldn't know about at the sheriff's office, correct?
I would not.
And again, you may catch all the red lights one day and all the green lights the next, right?
It's very true.
Okay. Just Cam, just a moment. Detective Doherty, just to clarify a couple of quick points. You testified earlier that Mrs. Jewell told you that she forgot the child was in the car. Is that correct?
She did say that, yes.
At some point after this interview, did you or Detective Curry or anyone at your direction obtain Rhonda Jewell's cell phone that she had that day?
Yes, it was obtained, I believe 2 days maybe after that.
Okay. Was that at your request or your direction?
It was not.
Okay. Do you know who asked for that?
I believe Lieutenant Mancini asked for that.
Now, who is Lieutenant Mancini?
He is lieutenant over investigations.
So he's head of investigations?
Yes.
Right. He hasn't testified here, but he advised somebody to get the phone, correct?
Yes.
Would it be fair to say that that phone was brought to you voluntarily?
Correct. It was.
Correct. There was no search warrant to get the phone, correct?
Not to get it, no.
Right. And the passcode for that phone was given to you voluntarily as well, correct?
To my understanding, yes.
And although you may not have done this, other detectives looked through that phone, correct?
Yes.
No.
Yeah.
You may.
Captain, I'm going to ask you to look at what's been marked as Defense Exhibit 1 for identification,
Okay.
A1. Tell me what this is.
It is a cell phone blue in color with it says flowered case.
Is that the cell phone of Rhonda Jewell?
I'm aware. I never had contact with the cell phone.
Mr. Nelson, if you got any more questions, let's ask them. We need to move on.
I have no questions.
Okay. Any redirect?
Yes, Your Honor. May we approach very briefly?
Yes. Mr. King, redirect.
Yes. Detective Dougherty, the cell phone defense counsel asked you about, you said it had been 2 days after that?
I believe that was the time frame, yes.
Do you have any knowledge of where that cell phone was for those 2 days?
I believe it went home with her husband.
So based on your investigation and communications with the defendant in this case, were you able to establish who was responsible for Araya Page between 8 a.m. and 1 p.m. on July 19th of 2023?
Yes, the defendant was.
No other questions.
Any other questions?
No, sir.
Can this witness be excused, subject to recall?
Yes, sir.
You are excused. Thank you, sir.